Hey everybody, I'm Yvonne with Back to Earth Creations, and in this video we're going to be showing you how to make a wire wrapped spider, which is perfect for a spooky season or just if you like bugs, or just want to try something new and different with making jewelry. Now there are a lot of really great tutorials for spider designs here on YouTube and across the expanse of the internet. And I wanted to show you some different examples. We've done a tutorial on this in the past showing how to use one of our lampwork glass bead as like the butt of the spider. And we also have a live stream. These videos will be linked down below showing, and you may expect a future tutorial on how to make a spider with a traditional cabochon for the booty. But today I want to show you how to make a kind of entry-level wire-wrapped spider using a grooved cabochon, which if you're new to wire wrapping or you just want to try something different from the traditional kind of, that style of wrapping, I think groovy cabs are so fun, so easy, so accessible, whether you're an old pro at it and your hands hurt, like me. Like I've been wire wrapping since 2008, and sometimes I just like for something to come together quickly. Or if you're new and it feels a little bumbly, and the hardest part for me when I was starting out was getting the cabochon to just stay in the wire. So the groove, what we do is we use there'll be a link to a video down in the video description as well, showing how to make your own grooved cabochons. I use a Griffette glass grinder with a Twofer brand jewelry bit that cuts, and I'll show you, just that little groove right there. And that can accommodate up to a 16 gauge wire. Now, this is the project for, at the time of recording, this month's craft along kit. And so you'll be provided with, I thought this one looked like those orb weavers that we used to get out in our garden when we lived in Tennessee. I don't see as many as the green and yellow ones in my garden now here in Missouri, but we have some different colored orb weavers. And then I thought, like, some candy cane because spooky, or not candy cane, candy corn. So we're going to start by making the bail. And you could use a knitting needle, you could use a pen, whatever you have. I'm going to be using my mandrel. And I'm going to be on let's do an 8mm, like a 7 or 8mm bail. And I'm going to do 3 wraps around. This is 20 gauge wire. You could do this with a 22 gauge. Like this one here, I used a 22 gauge because it fits through the bugle beads. But 20 gauge is what we're sending out in the kits. And while I'm going to do a little twist here, once and twice. That's plenty enough to make it nice and stable and secure. And I want that coming out of the center of the bottom of the bail, like it's a balloon on a string with no breeze. Like, so that's how that's looking. There'll be stuff coming up on the screen here in a little bit. Let's do this next step. Ooh, I'm gonna wrap the candy corn. You could have where the butt's hanging like that, or with the butt's hanging like that. I kind of like it with the candy corn tip that way, but you can do your spider however you like. And then we're just nestling the wire into the groove, just like so. And then I want to find as close as I can to the center line. It doesn't have to be perfect because we can tweak it. But it is good to try to practice your aim. And I'm going to do our little twist, and you can see it did not nestle into the groove as well as what I would like. So I'm going to do a second twist, and then I'm going to grab my flat nose pliers. You could also use chain nose or bent nose, just really whatever you have on hand. And I'm going to position so that that wire is lined up with the groove, and then I want to very carefully twist, and this is going to help tighten and settle that wire into our groove. And you want to be careful because we're getting very close to like making it's not quite flint napping, but you can nap glass very similarly to how you would nap flint. And if we get in there and apply pressure, with metal, it's pretty easy to chip the glass. So you want to be careful on that, but being mindful is kind of all it takes. So while I twist this, we're going to twist to a total of 25 millimeters or 1 inch of wire. But while I'm twisting this, and we're just continuing that twist tie twist, and I'm trying to keep my fingers as equidistant from the twisting point as possible. If I'm out too far, it's going to give us a flubby twist, so I like to be kind of up on it. But up here on the screen now, while I do this, I'm going to be over in the corner. These are what you can expect in your October 2025 craft along kits. With our $15 kit, that's perfect for folks who you already have the wire that you want, or if you're doing beading or macrame or chainmail. The $15 kit is just our handmade cabochons that we make here in our home. And then the $25 kit, you get this array of cabochons as well, 2 of which have a groove added into them, so for the easy wire wrapping. Though it does work well with macrame also, and beading, because that groove, you can nestle whatever you want in there and get it to hold on. And then our $35, $45, and $55 kits contain similar items. You get the same 20 gauge wire, you get similar cabochons. We have some different pictures depicting the different varieties of cabs that you might be able to expect in your kit this month. But the bigger a kit you get, the more of these materials that you get. I especially love the dichroic glass cabochons that we're including in this month's kit. I think they look very Sally from Nightmare Before Christmas, as well as we have some that look more like Bubble Fae kind of very ethereal patchwork, which I'm just totally digging. So if you're interested in crafting along with me using the same materials as what I'm using, do consider joining our Happy Crafter Club or purchasing one of just our kits without a subscription. That way, if you just like what we're doing in 1 month, but kits are only available for the month that they're in. So like this is October, November's kit, we won't carry October kits anymore. So I hope that makes sense to y'all. Well, I think that's all of that. But yeah, links are down in the video description. So thank you guys for my poorly put together commercial. But all of that being said, you can totally just use what you have on hand. So, you could, if you don't have groovy cabochons, you could take 2 cabochons and glue them together with either like epoxy sculpt or Mod Podge or some sort of 2-part resin, and then that makes a little bit of a groove that you can wrap the wire around as well. It gives your spider a thicker butt, but that's okay. If there's a crafter, there's a way. And so now I'm going to look at this, and we're going to bend all of that twisting that we had just done off to the side, and then shape it around. This is going to become kind of the head and abdomen of our spider. And so I'm just going to take that, and then we're going to wrap this away. One full wrap around. So if that's the head and that's the body, we've wrapped the scarf around one full wrap. And then I'm actually going to take one of the 2 wires, and I'm going to bring it off to the side, and then we're going to thread through right there. And I want that to be right pushed up against the bottom, because we're going to go through and we're going to be making all of the legs, and I don't want all of our legs to be like we have to fit 5 loops before we get to the center line onto each side. And I'm going to show you very shortly what I mean by that. So you could use a wooden dowel, you could use a very thick knitting needle. I'm using just this metal ruler, but it's got very, very sharp edges, so that can bite into my wire. So it's just something to be careful and mindful of as we craft. So what I'm going to do is I want to leave a little bit of a gap there, but I am just going to bend that wire like that, and then we're going to come through and I don't want to pull down on it because we can lose tension really, really quickly here. Or maybe not lose tension, but things can get distorted very easily. So we've wrapped once around through, and now I'm going to bring our wire back through again. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but as with most things, I think it's a good idea to try our best to be as tidy and intentional about what our wire is doing. And so I'm just going to sew through right there. But yeah, if you can visualize with me, instead of a ruler, we could be using just about anything, so long as it's making a consistent size for our, and you can see I already tensioned down too much. That's okay. We'll remove our wire or a ruler so that we can wrap our wire around. And there we go. This is one of those projects that it's got a lot of wire, so it's rubbing like everywhere. But what we're doing is, like, here you can see as we make each of these little lobes that comes out, those are going to get twisted and turned into the spider legs. So I like to do one wrap in between so that we have it's like stabilized, because once we start twisting, I don't want twisting on this leg to make this leg shorter, if that makes sense. So now, and you don't have to do all 4 legs on the ruler all at the same time, just having it so that we can kind of get our spacing down, bring it around, sew through, boop. Oh, that's nice. And then we can just extract the ruler. So again, just use whatever you have on hand that works best for you. I hesitate to use something that is tapered, just because if I were to do something that were tapered, I would want to use like a ring mandrel and make sure that I'm doing it at the same ring size every time. That way the legs come out the same length. So that's something super handy. But again, I don't know why, I liked the ruler on this one. And to get I like to do a nice little bend there at the tip. And then we just slide it off. And now we're going to come through. I do prefer this with the 20 gauge as opposed to the 22 gauge, just because it feels a little bit more robust. The 22 gauge does well, but it gets, especially because I needed something that fits through the bugle beads. But stay tuned, because I've got some other ideas knocking around in my mind for bugle bead legged insect bead pendant wire jewelry. Oh boy. Words are hard, you guys, but we can get through it. All right, so now we've done our fort. We're going to do, I believe these are called the pedipalps, the little boop boop parts of the that the little spider would, like, I don't know, clean his feet with. And so there's that loop, and I just used the width of the tip of my flat nose pliers for that. And now I'm going to finish off this loop, and I'm going to leave this length of wire that's technically just extra, but I'm not going to cut it off yet because we may decide we want to do something with it. All right, and so now we have the whole nother length of wire, and we are going to start building the legs on the other side. And so I want to, first off, I want to get my wire traveling in the same direction as what it was on the other side, just for symmetry's sake. So I'm just guiding this wire through, whoop, and then crossed over right there so that they're both traveling in the same direction. Just straightening that wire out. It doesn't have to be perfect, but again, points for effort. And then we just get that bend. I'm going to take, it can be a little cumbersome, and I do this real time with you guys because I want you to see the struggles that I have in getting my wire to behave, and you know, I'm trying my best to stay in frame and all the good stuff, but be patient with yourself, be patient with the project. You've got this. And we're just going to do that nice stabilizing wrap in between, being careful to not let my wire's going to want to climb farther than what I actually want it to. I want to do these as nice and tight together as I can. So we're going to position that like so. Get tangled on the tripod a little bit, just training that bend around, and then we can remove our ruler. And then we're going to sew through as though the wire is both the needle and the thread. And the more I work with my wire, the kinkier it wants to get. Like the stiffer and more inclined to bunching up and getting weird. So it's just something to be mindful of. The more you practice, the more progress you will make. And if you're planning on making this just as a sun catcher or an ornament, you may be able to get away with using a dead soft aluminum wire. The wire that we're sending out in our kits, I accidentally punched through the thing, but it's Parawire brand. It's an enameled craft wire, so it's copper core that's been silver plated and then covered with this titanium tone, you know, to give it that nice finish, but it's non-tarnish. It won't turn your skin green or irritate you if you've metal allergies, in my experience. And I find it very easy to work with, but if you want something that's a little softer still, that dead soft aluminum wire can be pretty good for this project if you don't intend to wear it, because it is soft, y'all. But again, if you're just making Halloween ornaments or something for like hanging around the house or in a window, and you'd want the legs to be nice and posable, that aluminum wire may be perfect. I feel like for every material, there's a project, you know, so not every, you know, I wouldn't want to use stainless steel wire for every application, but I do love it for ear hooks and S-hook clasps, you know, whenever I need something that's very strong and rigid and will maintain its shape well. But I would not want to make this out of stainless steel wire, personally. I feel like that would be unnecessarily hard on my hands. So let's see. Bending around, being very intentional with where we're putting our wire. All right, and now we are ready to do the pedipalp on this side. So I'm just grasping, and I had left a little bit of space right there. We can just eyeball it. Those look pretty good. And now I want to show you something that I've been doing but haven't addressed. So I'm going to feed this wire through, and I do what I consider a training bend, where I bend this around, that wire around, instead of leaving it kind of loose and open. And now whenever we come through to feed through our wire and I pull, I can pull and provide some resistance, and it focuses all of the force into that bend instead of reducing the wire behind it. So it just gives me a little bit more control over where my wire's going and how it's behaving. And now my aim here, I'm holding onto the wire with my pliers. I want to tighten that one little wire. Do you see how it's protruding down a little bit? I'm going to have to cover it with my thumb for a moment just to get a good grip. Well, that didn't really do anything, did it? Aha! But sometimes you got to tug and wiggle on it. And that got it nice and settled in. And so we could add in a bead here if we wanted. I did not include a small bead in the kit, so I'm not going to do that. What we're going to do instead is we are going to take this wire and I'm going to shape it around ooh, we could come down. Let's come down in between. Like that. So this is the belly of the spider. It's coming down. Just pick a side. And then across like that. And then we're going to come down this side. And I'm going to go across like that. Oh, I kind of like that. And now we may, we could just do an X on the back like that. We could have also, let me back that up a little bit. So if you don't want the X on the back, we could come around here. And I'm actually going to demonstrate real quick. If you've messed up and you're like, oh no, and you unwrap and your wire is all gnarled up, this is where all the tools and materials are linked down in the video description, by the way, to help you shop. Nylon jaw pliers are phenomenal for just smoothing out. They do work harden a little bit, your wire, so it'll stiffen it up some, so be mindful of that. But if you've goobied it up and you want to smooth it out, they're fantastic, you guys. And so the pair that I like best are these ones because there's no screw or anything. It's just, these have held up the best for me over the ages. So those are linked down in the video description below. But now I'm going to try to keep these wires parallel to each other. And we're going to make a little bit of a spiral by shaping the wire around in this manner. And that's one of my favorite things about wire wrapping is that you don't have to have a ton. You can make so much with just the wire. You don't need to have a ton of beads and stuff. I like providing the cabochons in the kit because, well, I think it's wonderful, to get to craft with the same materials together, but also it's nice to have something to feature the wire on, but you don't have to have it. So keep that in mind. You could make this and just fill in the back with a wire. And so if there's a crafter, there's a way. And I'm just going to finish this off by wrapping like that. And we could even, y'all, we could even come through and do some like final touches, bringing that up and around, and then bringing that up and around. Like if you wanted just a little bit more as just a decorative border on your groovy cab, you can totally do that. You could add some other beads and spirals and things. But I think I'm just going to build that wire up, just layering it over itself. We risk it getting a little messy looking, but that's okay. It didn't have to look any way other than what it looks. Sometimes that's the fun of just sculpting and seeing what happens. And this is a nice variation on the herringbone spider butt that I think we had done in the past. So bringing that 20 gauge wire up, and I'm just letting it build up a little bit more of a frame. And then from there, I've just wrapped, and now I'm gonna snip, and I'm gonna snip. Does not have to be fancy or anything. And also, we don't have to be good at what we're doing to have fun at it, you guys. Like, it didn't have to be any way other than what it is. If you're having fun, that's kind of the point, you know? If we wanted it to be perfect, we could just have a robot make it for us, but it's the joy of crafting. Okay, so that's it with some wires built up, which I kind of like the way that, that I like it. It kind of fits in with the messy spider look, but we could have just snipped it whenever we wrapped around there, and it would have had just that nice, sleek look as well. We want to make sure that any little pokey bits are very smushed down and not able to snag on our skin or clothing. And what we're going to do from here is, I'm going to start with the pedipalps because they're my favorite. We're going to grab, and I want to be twisting in from the outside. So we're going to start from womp. So I'm going to grab here and I'm going to twist in, and I'm going to grab here and I'm going to twist in, and I'm going to come to this side. I'm grabbing and I'm twisting towards the center. Towards the center. I hope that that makes sense. So, and we can also do the long twisty legs like this, or we can come in and I'm going to grab with my flat nose pliers. Well, I'll grab with my bent nose first just because I prefer them for this step. And I'm going to do a twist, twist, again, in the direction towards that center line. But then I'm going to grab right here to stop the twist from happening. And then I'm going to grab and I'm going to go twist, twist. And that gives us a segmented spider leg, which I think is cool. And we could even come into right here and clasp and then twist, twist. We have to be careful because the wire can cut through itself if we twist too hard. But do you see how that is so cool? And now I don't know if I would do that with the 22 gauge. I think I needed the continuous twist on the 22 gauge, but here on the 20 gauge, that is just neat, you guys. Like, I like it. And so I like to bend with my pliers so that it stays nice and crisp. But let's see if we can replicate that. And so I'm going to go through and I'm going to grab up here real close, twist. It's all tangled. We got our twist, twist down. So now let's grab and twist and grab and twist. We're just getting that first twist segment taken care of. So it may be easier to grab. Chain nose pliers may be perfect for this because I want to be able to grab both sides, but I want to twist without my pliers getting tangled up in the way. Nope, the bent nose. Sometimes you don't know what tool is going to be perfect for the job till you experiment. So there's a twist, twist. And I'm going to do that same thing here on the other side, but I'm going to see if I bend those ones out of the way first. So we can grab here and twist, grab and twist, grab and twist, grab and twist, grab and twist on the next leg, grab and twist, yeah. And then grab and twist, grab and twist. And the nice thing about this is if everything goes wrong, we can always just twist it all the way down. Which the way that I had done that is I just grabbed by the tip and then twist, 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 twist until the whole leg was twisted. Which is, I think, a very fun way of doing that. Okay, so there's all of those. Now I'm going to grab here and I'm going to, still twisting towards the center, twist and twist. I like to do 2 twists because I feel like that really locks it in. And then I'm just going to squeeze with my flat nose pliers that come in so, so handy. I'm so pleased for them. Oops. There we go. And then we're going to go twist and twist. Just a nice little, and now we can take this, grabbing there, and we're going to bend. And then we can take this and we can grab there and we can kind of bend up. Oh, those are the creepiest little spider legs. I love it. Ah. Oh, I love those legs though. That makes me happy. All right, so we're just grabbing and then twist, and see if we twist from the end, it puts it through the whole length. So I like to twist from close up on to where we are gripping, because it keeps those twists happening right there. There we go. That is so neat. Boop. And then and grabbing and just a little bit of a bend. So yeah, huge difference between like the sculpting that we're doing here with the wire wrapping makes a huge difference. And I think this is my new favorite way. That makes me really happy. And sometimes it takes, like, I made 4 of these. I was starting in on my 5th in a live stream hanging out with y'all on my Craft Along with Vaughn channel, which is like where we do the bulk of our impromptu live streaming now. And then it mutated into one of y'all had asked, it was like, well, what if we wanted to make this with a traditional cabochon? And so we did this one. And now to come back to this, it's just, I love making a bunch of the same project because I feel like it mutates. And, you know, I'll come up with ideas or, you know, things. I'm pretty sure I've seen like maybe a praying mantis wire sculpture that utilized this, but I haven't thought about it in ages. And I feel like there's a lot of stuff that I don't think I've had an original idea in my whole life, but I keep thinking of ways of, you know, I didn't come up with the concept of a spider pendant, but this is my way of getting there. You know, it's probably very similar to a lot of other wire wrappers' ways of getting there, but I love teaching, and, you know, I think the art grows the more we share and the more we learn. You know, that is so fun. Look at that. Oh, it's so creepy. It just sounds like a big tick, 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 tick. Oh, like kill it with a book kind of thing. Now, before I get too much farther, because I don't want to forget to do this step, I want to curl in the pedipalps. Just gripping and adding a little bit of a curve. Oh yeah, that looks good. And then we're just gripping right there. And then again, twisting towards the center line. So twist, twist. And then I'm gonna grip. And then we're gonna go twist, twist. And I didn't do that perfectly centered. That's okay. If anybody comes through my booth and is like, your spiders are not completely anatomically, biologically correct, I'll be like, you have a really great eye for detail. Let's talk more about this. And because, you know, if somebody's fine tooth picking over my jewelry like that, they're paying as much attention to it as I am. And anybody who's paying that much attention to my jewelry or to somebody's jewelry is clearly a jewelry fan. So I don't mind a bit whenever people get a little, maybe pedantic, maybe a little hyper-fixated on details that I thought was fine, but very rarely does it come to fisticuffs over it. Boop, boop. There's 1, 2. Like, I've decided to not take it personally when somebody points out, you know, this, that, or the other about any of my artwork, because it's, the artwork itself is just it's just a conversation starter. I just want to talk to other crafty folks who like making things and making messes. Okay, so now we got that shaped boop and boop. You can kind of point the little feet in whatever direction. We could have made these legs longer. You know, I kind of feel like the bigger the butt, the longer the legs for the spider. That's not the case for me, for sure. But I could have done with longer legs on this one. And that's okay. Now we know. I don't think it's the end of the world. I think it's still very cute. It's just a big old candy corn butt. And I'm trying to more or less have the knee, like that center joint, in the same spot. 1 and 2. And I'm just going to position that. There we go. Grasping there, and then 1 and 2. Yeah, notice I said trying to have the legs in the same positions. Points for effort, but then gotta be perfect. And then we got our party leg back here, just woo! I feel good. I knew that I would. Now, as a design element for me, like let's say that this is 8mm. It's not, but let's just say that it is between the joint and the joint. This one I would want to make 8 to 12 or 10 to 12mm, so a little bit longer. And I think it just gives a really nice shape to the legs. And then I'd be like 8mm, 10mm, 10mm, 8mm, if that makes sense. I don't really measure it. I just kind of try to set my pliers in line with where I feel like that arc would be. And then we're going to go twist, twist. And I'm going to get that positioned nicely so that we can come down here and grasp it and then go twist and twist. At the time of recording, I am making jewelry in preparation for our upcoming event, the Moth Market in Springfield, Missouri. It's like, I guess, spooky. I don't know. I've never done a moth market before, or a Curiosities Expo or Oddities Expo or something like that. So, but I always feel at home when surrounded by other creative folks. So I'm very excited to try something new. Hopefully it's a fantastic vending event for everybody there. Actually, one of the folks who participated, like left a comment on our weekly shop update, Anita, I think, well, she's gonna be there too, like at the Moth Market. So it's crazy that we're gonna get to connect with some other folks in our crafty community, and hopefully all of us will have a fantastic sales weekend. So that's October 18th, Springfield, Missouri. And even if it's a bust, y'all, I'm having so much fun making stuff for it. And we're going to be building putting together a new booth setup, because it's not going to be our 10 by 20. It's just going to be a 10 by 10. And so I'm just very excited to be facing all of the unique challenges that come with vending and trying something new. And I'm really excited to get to share that whole experience with you. So thank you for being here. I hope that this is helpful to you. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas, do leave them down below, and I'll do my best to get back to you. And I'm going to use my shirt to take the fingerprints off of. Y'all, that's pretty cool. I could have gone with longer legs, but then we're getting into like massive pendant territory. I think this one is perfectly creepy. Love the candy corn. And you can see we could actually, if we didn't want to make the bail here on the butt, those two wires that were coming from between the pedipalps, we could have made a bail that way. And also on some, I'm going to use this one as an example, we could thread a wire, depending on how we have the little spider feet oriented. We could thread a wire or a chainmail ring or something through there. A chainmail ring, I find, or depending on how you do the wire, bringing those front two legs together, I think looks super cool. And then we could just have like a teardrop or something hanging down off the booty. That'd be pretty cool. There's, sky's the limit on this one. I cannot wait to see what you guys make. Yeah, so I think that's everything, y'all. I'll see you in our next tutorial. There should be something popping up on the screen here. And until next time, thank you for being here and happy crafting. Mwah. Bye.